Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 127 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, author and PR consultant and founder of Vegan Business Media, a content events and training platform providing success strategies for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, just quickly before we jump into the main part of the show, I wanted to let you know about my online PR course and group coaching program, Vegans in the Limelight. Now, this is a 12-month online program where you have video training that teaches you everything you need to know about how to do your own PR. You can ask questions on the platform, and you can also post your proposed pitches and media releases before sending them to journalists to get my feedback. You also get to jump on a monthly live group call where you can ask whatever questions you want about your business, and you can get tailored help from me on anything to do with raising the profile of your brand. So it might be that I look at your website and give you some feedback, or how to improve your LinkedIn profile and other marketing and PR topics. So if you'd like to find out more about that, just hop on over to veganbusinessmedia.com and you'll see a link there for Vegans in the Limelight. And now on to the main part of the show. In this episode, I interview Christophe Caron, who, with his mother and father, own French vegan restaurant Delice Sarrasin in New York. Christophe moved from France to New York 10 years ago and spent the first few years as a fashion model represented by top agencies Wilhelmina Models and Ford Models. After becoming vegan, he began craving animal-free versions of traditional French food. So he encouraged his mother Yvette, a renowned chef in France, and his father Patrick to join him in New York to open a French vegan eatery. Since opening 6 years ago on Christopher Street in the heart of the West Village, the small boutique restaurant, which serves vegan versions of beef bourguignon, steak tartare, and many other delicious French vegan dishes, has become a popular destination with locals and tourists alike. In this interview, Christophe discusses the leap of faith his parents, both about to enter their 60s, took by moving to a new country and starting a venture that hadn't been done before. Why location is everything, and how the restaurant landed this particular property, which had been closed for 25 years. The challenges of replicating the complex flavours of traditional French dishes without animal ingredients, and how they resolved them. The pros and cons of working together in a family business and the key thing that makes it work so successfully for them. How the business attracts and retains loyal long-term employees and the one requirement all staff need in order to keep their jobs. How long it took for the restaurant to turn a profit and how it's been funded to date. And much more. Here's the interview with Christophe Caron from Delice Sarrasin. Hello, Christophe. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm delighted to have you on the show. So just for listeners, to let you know, I was in New York early this year in June 2019, if you're listening in the future. I was over for the Plant-Based World Conference and Expo, and I discovered this amazing French vegan restaurant, and it's not only just any old French vegan restaurant. I think we believe it's possibly the only one in the world. It's the only one we're aware of that is a vegan restaurant that serves French versions of vegan food. So French versions of beef bourguignon and steak tartare, etc. So I'm very excited to have you on the show, Christophe, because
Great, me too. Thank you.
And I know you told me a little bit about your story when I was in your restaurant enjoying your wonderful food, and I believe you and your family, so your mum and your dad, you actually moved from France, where I believe your mum was a chef and you know running a regular like mainstream restaurant restaurant with animal-based foods, and you actually moved all the way to New York to open your restaurant, Delice Sarrasin. So tell us a bit about your reasons, your drivers for doing what you do. What's your why? What's the why behind the business?
So there's a lot of things around the why. First, I first came to New York as a model in 2009. So 10 years now. And I was vegan just when I moved to New York. So when I moved here, I was just craving after a few months my mom's food, especially because she would just have fun at home and veganize those items. And so, she was a chef back then in the south of France, where we were from. And unfortunately, she was not a vegan chef. She was a chef. She has her own restaurant, and she was just a chef. And after a while, she was like, "Oh God, we're vegan," and she got tired of having to try the food because even if she was vegan, she had to try the food to make sure it was fully cooked and all of that. And so after a while, she said, "You know what? Between the crisis and at this time in 2008 in France, and the fact that she's vegan, she was like, okay, I'll just close it." So that was in 2008, yeah. And so I went to New York in 2009. And so a few years later, I said, "Listen, Mom, if you don't plan to open any other restaurant in France, I'm craving. I live here. I'm craving the food. Can we please just open something here so people can just enjoy the same way I enjoy?" Because when I talk about it, people think I'm crazy. "Oh no, but it's impossible to do as good as French food, blah, blah, blah." So, that's the typical reason. And so, that 6 years ago, my parents said, okay. And in the blink of an eye, they were here in New York, and we were shopping around for spaces, and we found a space that we personally loved, and started the whole adventure.
Wow. So basically, your parents were quite happy to say not open a vegan restaurant in France, but to come all the way to New York. And they're in their 60s, I believe you said, or in their 50s or 60s.
Yeah. They turned 65 this month, both of them.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a huge chance for them.
It's amazing. And I think that's really nice. I just want to pause there to let people kind of sink that in, because I think a lot of people think, oh, you've got to be young to run your own business. And, I think that's really amazing that, two people, I guess 6 years ago, they would have been, just coming up to their 60s to actually make such a life change, to move, to a different part of the world and start a new venture that they didn't even know, it was a brand new concept as well. I mean, that's nothing. Just so brave and wonderful. And I'm so happy that it's been successful for you. So tell us a bit about the name, Delice Sarrasin. I hope I've pronounced that right. If not, you can correct me. But, tell us a bit about how you chose it. Does it mean anything in particular?
Yes, so Delice means delicious, and Sarrasin is a type of flower that is typical and authentic in France. It's the translation in English is buckwheat, but it kind of not exactly it. It's really a type of a flower that you find especially in Britain, in the north of France. It came from there. It's really something that's typical, and we wanted to work with this due to his to the high nutritional of the buckwheat. And so we started like this, and we started using it in dishes and getting creative. So that's the whole story behind it.
Well, it sounds so much better in French. Like if you called it delicious and buckwheat in English, it doesn't sound any good. But when you say Delice and Sarrasin, it's just so lovely. I love French. Wonderful. I like that. Thank you very much for sharing that. So tell us a bit about the challenges, because obviously, you know, as we mentioned, you know, coming, you know, to a new country, starting a new restaurant that's a brand new concept that hasn't really, as far as you know, been done anywhere else. What were some of your key challenges when you first started out with the business?
Well, the first ever issue was to find the right space. It's definitely, I mean, you've seen New York, it's just full of spaces everywhere, full of different type of neighborhoods. And also, every time you rent a space in New York, you also rent the history behind it. So we saw that's a funny story, but the first space that we wanted to get was the space that by Chloe first opened the store on liquor.
Right.
And so we were interested in that space at this time. And for a lot of reasons, mainly structural, because the building had fire before, we would have had to go through such a huge process that we decided not to get this one. So the main challenge was to find the space, and then, you know, we when we were walking around, we just happened to see this space that was closed for nearly 25 years, and we contacted the landlord, and she said yes.
It was closed for 25 years, did you say?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, some people say 25. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And to be honest, the landlord didn't even have. She didn't need to rent it. But let's put it this way: she was really old, and she just say, "Oh, I was just waiting for the right people." So she was super sweet when she told us that. She's like, "Oh, that's sweet too. In a way, I waited for you, you know, to get it." So
that's lovely.
That was super sweet. Yeah, really
that's
so
so
that's
lovely.
definitely a huge issue in New York. And then the second issue was
just before we go on to that, Christophe. So so obviously, I love the fact you were obviously looking in the Lower East Side, then in that kind of area. Why were you looking in that particular location, and how good is this particular spot, which is on Christopher Street, so it's right in the heart of the village? And why did you decide on that particular location, not that specific store which you just explained, but just that general area,
right,
as opposed to say going up on the Upper East Side, for example, where you might well have had some success there as well?
Because we felt like home in that neighborhood. It just feels, it just gives us a different feeling when we walk around, and you know, it just felt like you're in Europe in a way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, for some reason I cannot explain, but then we said no, it has to be in that neighborhood, so we focus on this neighborhood.
Got it. Great, awesome, thank you. So you were going to talk about, so that was one of the key challenges was location, obviously in a big city like New York, and I love the story of how you found that particular store. And so what were some of the other challenges?
I guess to open. That's one of the biggest challenge too. When you pick the place, then you have to start working all the details. So what I mean is the recipes and how to get the ingredients, and then once you open, what should we expect? Are we going to waste food? How many people should we hire? Is it going to be crazy busy the first week? How does it work? You know, you never know, because sometimes you see openings and it's full of people the first day. So we kind of didn't know how it was going to be. And I'm not going to hide that we had a rough time the first couple of months. We did some mistake on organizing, how to organize this and this, and it was definitely a big challenge. But we learned, and I guess by doing, I want to say, a soft opening, we actually were ready to, after a few months, to actually have a real base of customers. Because when we first opened, the reason why I say this is because when we first opened, veganism was not a trend yet. Now, besides the vegan that does it for the animal, so for whatever reason, now it became a trend. But before, it was only the vegan that you could target. And so people was just looking at us really weird. We were the new kid on the block, but we were at the same time the weirdo, of the neighborhood. To have a French vegan, first of all, a vegan restaurant in the West Village, they're so conservative. And then suddenly vegan, it really shocked everybody. But that was a big challenge, to constantly have to explain that it was a little bit different, but it was as good. That definitely was a challenge at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you mentioned when I was there as well, there was some challenges as well in getting the food right. Like I think you said your mum was a bit concerned about, can we make, the French food in a vegan version and still make it as good as the animal-based food. So what kind of challenges did you have there and how did you manage to overcome them? I think you mentioned, was it a pea protein or something you discovered and were very excited about, I remember.
Yeah. So the first thing that my mom realized when she actually translated 100% the recipes from non-vegan to vegan was the complexity of the flavor. And with time, we realized that it was all about the sauce. It's not even about the meat. It's about the way it's cooked, the ingredients that are used, and the sauce. And guess what? The sauce most of the time is wine. Even if you might not feel it, but certain dishes are obviously known to be cooked in wine, but most of them you will not even know there's wine. And that's where the complexity comes. Is the meat actually doesn't give any flavor. There's a particular dish that's called the cassoulet toulousain that's really famous from Toulouse, from the south. And this dish was one of the most complicated and challenging because everybody says that the flavor of the dish comes from a particular bone of the pork. So, how do you replicate that sauce that come out of that bone, which sounds disgusting when I talk about it. And when we first did the trial, guess what? It tasted exactly the same without that meat. And so that's when we're like, okay, so you know what? It tastes like the same. Now let's just find replacements for the meat, and the meat will just get the flavor because it's cooked for so long that the meat absorbs. And I'm talking about vegan meat, and I mean also animal meat. It absorbs the flavor of whatever you cook.
Right, got it.
And so at this time, pea protein was not yet. Now suddenly this year it's a new trend now, the pea protein. But before we were one of the only one using it, and that's so funny because in France that's not a vegan country at all. The main producer of that protein, the pea protein, is France. In fact, Beyond Meat and everybody in the big market that uses pea protein, it all comes from France. All of it.
Wow, isn't that funny?
Yeah. And now, funny enough, we use a pea that we didn't even try to do it this way, but we use a pea that comes from France.
Oh,
So it's funny to
wonderful.
actually.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah. Amazing. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. Now you're a family business. So there's the three of you,
Yeah.
there's your mum and your dad. So what roles do each of the family members have in the business? And I'm just curious, how often are you at the restaurant working? Because I know there's this thing about, restaurants, you've got to be there all the time.
Yeah.
And, so talk about what your role is, what your mum and dad's role is briefly, and what a typical day or evening looks like for you.
So we all work together. We all have a different role in the business. Not because we chose it, just because it worked out this way, and we all bring something that the other cannot bring. So that fell actually in place really well. So my mom is the chef. That's the obvious thing. Everybody knows this. Without her, you cannot do food. So okay, good. That part is solved. My dad, when we first opened, he would be the one that would do everything. So, prep the vegetable, prep this, go to the market, get this, fix this, wash the dishes, like all at the beginning was just fixing it all. And me, I was, the other side of it. So I would be the face, I would be in the dining room, and I would do everything else around it. So accounting and everything that surrounded orders, food orders, marketing, and all of this. So because my parents didn't speak French, English back then, they needed me to start opening, the business and all of this.
Wow. So your parents didn't even speak English when they came here either?
No, I mean, now they understand, but they don't speak, as fluent, of course. I mean,
wow.
It's normal now, at this age. So nowadays, it's still the same, except that my dad now only takes care of the fresh produce every day. So every day he goes to the market and bring the produce. And he's a big part too. Without him, we can't really have those fresh produce. There's a few things that we cannot get from suppliers that deliver to us once a week. So we need him to pick up the fresh thing every day.
Right.
And so me, I'm there every day. I work there every day. I'm there. I used to be there all day. But now things switched a little bit because we're starting growing in the catering and wedding and events. And so what I do usually at night is I take care of all of those detailed organization for the next day. Most of the events and weddings are at night. Birthday parties, office parties. So that's in the morning. I'm there. I do my accounting. I take care of the lunch time. It's not as busy as dinner. And then at night I take care of the, I want to say, marketing side, organization for the catering and all of that, and coordinating, going there. Yeah.
So you're working a lot. You're there 7 days a week.
Yeah, but it's been like this for 6 years, so it doesn't even feel like I'm working every day. And if I don't work every day now, I came to a point that when I have a day off, it stresses me out.
Oh, really? How funny. Oh, you obviously, I love that. Yeah. You love your work, because people kind of go, often they think about, hospitality and restaurant. It's like, it's really hard. And
no, it is. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But you know what? Now I learn, I don't want to say the bad way, but now when I have a free day, I'm out of the country. I'm just out of New York. If I have a real free day, then I'm leaving.
Okay, right. I see what you mean.
So,
yeah.
If tomorrow, I see that, okay, it's quiet, I go to the airport right away. I'm going somewhere. Right away. Empty suitcase, no suitcase.
I love that. So
you have to do that.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, hospitality takes over your life.
Absolutely.
So you have to you have to take your life back a little bit sometimes.
Of course. Well, I love that you love what you do. And I certainly got that impression when I met you, like you were just, I could tell you were just really passionate about what you do, which is great. And after 6 years as well. So what additional staff do you have, if any? And how did you know you were ready to hire them while still keeping the business sustainable? Because obviously, as we know, hiring staff is a major expense for a business.
Yeah. So staff, when you're talking about challenge, that was one of the biggest challenge for the staff. So right now we have 14 employees.
Oh,
so you
14.
see that's how we grew. So from 2 people in the kitchen, so my mom and my dad, we went to now 14. Of course, not all of them at the same time. But and then of course the dining room when you need the waiters and obviously at night you need tables because it's busier. It was tough. We have been so lucky. I have to say it has been really tough, but we found amazing people. That just so you have an example, our sous chef right now. So my mom's right arm, I want to say, started as our first dishwasher.
Oh, wow. Really? How fabulous.
Yeah.
Ah.
And with time, he kept on seeing my mom cooking and it was kind of becoming part of the family. And then suddenly, he kept on, when my mom forgot something, he's like, you haven't put this in this. And my mom was like, "Oh wow, you paid attention." That's true. And then little by little, he became really familiar with the recipes, and he developed with my mom. She taught him how to develop the palette for it and how to see that what was missing. Because my mom's cooking is really tough because it's not right out of a book, so she doesn't have any measurements. She would just say, "Oh, this is missing." So she would add like a little bit of this, a little bit of this. She doesn't have 1 ounce of this, and 2 pounds of this. So that was the tough part. And it's still every day a tough part. But we've been so lucky. He has been with us since the beginning, and a lot of people has been with us since the beginning, and that's what also I have to say made our success because we are really stable in the staff, and believe it or not, but it's the recipe for success also in the restaurant.
That's really interesting because I know the hospitality trade, it's notorious for a fast turnover of staff. People usually have other gigs, like maybe they're a model, or an actor or somewhere. But then they do this, as their kind of day job and then leave. So that's a testament, I think, obviously to your business that you've managed to retain them.
Every time I hire someone, I was tell him, I want someone that wake up in the morning and says, "Great, I'm going to work."
Yeah.
Of course, we all have our days that we all are, "Oh my God, I'm stressed," whatever. But this happens with or without job, and so I always tell them, okay, I don't want to see anyone unhappy here. And if you're unhappy for some other reason, it's okay. But if it's become a work, then I'd rather you stop working because it doesn't make me happy to see that someone is here.
Yeah. Feeling
forced, I mean, of course, we are forced to work. Otherwise, this would not exist. But it definitely is the recipe of success. It thanks to those people that helped us and believed in us, we are where we are now.
Got it. So I assume you have a mixture of part-time staff as well as full-time staff.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And are they employed? They're not freelance contractors. I'm assuming in hospitality, they're actually employed as a staff member.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing that you've grown in 6 years, that you've grown to have 14 employees. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, now we are literally at full capacity. So even if we wanted to, we cannot hire anyone. First, because it won't fit.
Yeah.
The place is small.
Of course. So can you tell us a little bit, Christophe, about, as much as you're comfortable sharing, because obviously, starting a new business, particularly starting a business with a physical location, and renting in a big city like New York can be quite expensive. So I'm just curious, can you talk to us a little bit about how the business has been funded to date?
Yeah, so it was basically just self-funded by my parents and I. It was all personal funds, all of it.
Wow. Okay, great. So no
Yes,
investors, or you're not looking to expand or open another, or are you just happy growing this one or running this one?
No, we definitely are. We're working on other things on the side. It's not that we don't want to grow. It's just that now that we managed to have a certain stability in terms of staff and food production, we just a few months ago we just came to the point like finally we can breathe a little bit now. Okay, we got it.
Right.
So that's I think we're just taking that time to relax a little bit, but at the same time, now my mom wants more. Chefs are kind of like this. Once they kind of always are, they feel challenged. It's automatic to them. Okay, yeah. I've done this, but now what do? I did it. So next.
She sounds amazing, your mum. I wish I'll have to, hopefully I'll get to meet her next time, because she sounds so fabulous. I love that. She's 65. She's had been a professional, chef. She's like, okay, I've done the vegan thing. Now what? I love that. She sounds great.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, but, and so what she does is, because obviously now she has more free time than before. What she does is she innovates. So she cooks at home and she brings it to the kitchen and us, and she asks us to, she will produce new things, new dishes, and she needs to innovate. She wants to try to do a lobster. It's a high-end dish called homard thermidor. It's really high-end in France, and she wants to reproduce that it's lobster that's cooked with thousands of different things. So she's like focused on this, trying to recreate that dish that costs a fortune in France. But so that's her new thing now, to try to innovate on more complicated things.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And I think it's important. I just want to highlight for people listening that you said it's only really been until recently where you can go, okay, we got this, we can relax. And that's after 6 years. Because I think there's this perception that, you open a restaurant and suddenly you're going to be in profit and it's all going great after 6 months. And it can take a long time, as you said, to build up that clientele. And I know you mentioned that the customers have changed from just being predominantly vegans to now, more flexitarians. And as we saw when I was there was a couple from Florida, and I think she was vegan and her husband was not, but, and he loved it.
Exactly.
So it can take that while to really, build that reputation and get that regular clientele coming, and them spreading the word, and tourists coming, and really establishing yourself as a business. So thank you for sharing that, and giving people a real picture of what it takes to have a successful business. That's fantastic. Now, in terms of the word, because I know you're responsible for the marketing, in terms of the word vegan in your, when you're marketing and promoting the restaurant, some people say, vegan's still a scary word and we should use plant-based or something like that instead. What are your thoughts? I like to get people's take on this, because there's no right or wrong answer. It obviously depends on the brand, but I'm curious about your decision to use the word vegan, and how often. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Okay, two reasons. First, plant-based in a lot of ways used is not all the time vegan. So, for example, today Dunkin' Donuts in the US just released their first ever plant-based product that's made with the Beyond sausage and on a vegan English muffin. But guess what? The product is plant-based, but it has dairy cheese. So you see, they're advertising plant-based, meaning, the meat is not animal-based, but there's still animal products in it.
Right. Yes.
And the second reason we wanted to use the word vegan, just because we were like, let's just break the ice and just, okay, people need to get used to this. They have no choice anyway. Okay, this is vegan. Stop complaining. Eat.
Exactly. I love that philosophy. I think Miyoko Shina has that philosophy as well. It's just like, let's break the stereotypes. And I think it's amazing to do it with food, and especially with something like France. Like, even if you get a person going in and saying, right, I'm probably going to hate this, but I'm going to go and try it anyway. And then you wow them, which you do because your food is so amazing. It's suddenly their mind is like, and then they go and talk to people and say, I went to a French vegan restaurant. And I know you wouldn't think of the words French and vegan in the same sentence. And I know because my partner had a house in the south of France and we used to go there regularly. And when we went vegan, it was a nightmare because, there was no vegan cheese or very little vegan cheese.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was hard being vegetarian, never mind vegan. So I think it's really great that you're kind of blowing people's minds through the food, and just breaking down those stereotypes. So I love that. So can you just before we wrap up, a couple more questions, just around how you talked a little bit about marketing the restaurant. So what were some of the ways that you promoted and marketed the restaurant when you first opened it, and what current marketing and promotional strategies are you currently using that are most effective?
So we were really lucky because we had ABC, the channel, that came and filmed us, contacted us, filmed us, and a week after we were on TV, and that's kind of like helped us.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, the camera went in the kitchen and they saw my mom cooking the beef bourguignon, and so people could actually see it, see what it means. And so the second it was on air, we had plenty of last minute reservations, a lot of phone calls, nonstop. So of course, this is just a wave, right? Then it goes back a little bit, it slows down. But with this, we just haven't stopped having propositions. So we basically didn't do any direct marketing. We just didn't do anything, actually. We just let them do it for us. People came, contacted us, can we do an article about you? Can I come? Can I take pictures? Blah, blah, blah. Or they just publish it without telling us, So it was amazing to see that we haven't really done anything for marketing. And that's where you see that it's a trend. Because when you don't need to do marketing, it means that people are looking for it already, and that there's not enough offer. There's too much demand and not enough offer.
Right.
And
so this was so this happened, you say, within the first week. You had TV coverage, mainstream TV coverage, within the first week of you opening the restaurant. So that was before vegan was a trend.
No, actually that was a year after we opened.
Oh, a year after, I beg your pardon. Oh, okay, yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's interesting. And I think as well, one of the reasons I can imagine like you would be, so popular with the media is because you're a first of your kind, first ever, vegan restaurant that's serving traditional French food, and the media obviously love firsts, and world firsts and area first, country first. So I can imagine they would have been lapping it up with,
Oh my God, yes. And then you had all those French chefs wanted to come over and try. This is not possible. This is an insult. And then, and they would say this, no, but you can't do this. This is an insult. And I said, but yes, you're here already. So I attracted your attention. If you came, you can't complain. It's because you were curious.
Exactly.
And once they tried, they were like, wait, how do you do this? This is impossible. It's not. And I'm like, okay, that's the issue with French chefs. They are educated in a way that they think there's no other way possible.
Right, right. It's nice to see that kind of starting to change. Well, certainly with, I don't know about French chefs, but certainly some of the well-known English, British chefs, this kind of celebrity chefs, they're starting to kind of open their minds a little bit now, whereas once before they would have done the same thing, said, oh, it's an insult and don't you dare mention vegan. Whereas, even some of them are kind of like, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this. Oh, that's brilliant. So what about now, Christophe?
Exactly.
I mean, where do your customers come from? Is it mainly word of mouth? How important is social media or other marketing strategies?
Yeah, I think it's just word of mouth, and the reservation systems such as OpenTable and Facebook, Google. Now you can book tables through there. So if you're looking for vegan, you just have vegan on the map, and then it shows you the restaurant around, and then you can book through it. So it's really just how we promote it. We don't really do any advertising. I think it just goes by itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, that's because it's, I guess, either people are also curious, then there's the people that come back, and you also have the vegan, and you have the tourists. So you kind of have every type of customers. That's also a good thing because of being in New York.
Absolutely. I mean, I must admit, I heard about it. A friend shared something on Facebook and said, I've been to this amazing French vegan restaurant. And I was like, what is a French vegan restaurant in Manhattan? I must go there. So I made a point of going there. And now, of course, I went there and then I was like, oh my God, here I am at a French vegan restaurant. And I know other people have said, oh, I'm going to go there. And of course, I'll come back next time I'm in New York because I want to try some of the other dishes. And so, yeah, I think that's good for people to hear that, that word of mouth, I think, is really good. And social media marketing is essentially word of mouth online. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I was going to ask you, I typically ask people, obviously there are more and more vegan restaurants entering the market, and how do you go about standing out? I mean, at the moment, as far as we know, you're the only restaurant doing these traditional French dishes. And I imagine even if another French vegan restaurant opened doing similar, your mum just sounds so amazing and innovative that she's going to just continue to be ahead of the curve with creating new dishes.
Yeah, I think it's also we are not really afraid of any other restaurant opening. If it's vegan, we just consider it as a friend already. Okay, you're vegan. We don't really consider it as a competition, especially because what we do is so special. It's not like you get a hamburger to this vegan and you go to the other one, and it's kind of the same flavor when you talk about a hamburger. So we're not really afraid about this. We just want people to enjoy what they're eating. I think that's the most important. That's the best we want for us.
Absolutely. Just on a final couple of questions to wrap up. We mentioned you're a family business. I'm just curious about because it can be quite tricky, like working with your family. It can either really, really work and be great, or it can be a disaster and it could tear the family apart. So I'm wondering, have you got any tips for how to work well with, if someone decides to go into business with their family? What tips can you offer to how to keep that harmonious?
Oh my God. I mean, it's definitely, as you said, it's tricky, it's challenging, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, we had a ton of issues between each other and plenty of time. We were tired of each other, but I think it was more related to our own opinion, but it wasn't really related to the business side, I want to say. It's because when you stay with someone for so long in one room for 16 hours a day and 7 days a week, it comes a time that you're like, oh my God, I'm tired of you. I never said I would say this, but I'm tired of you. I'm tired to see you.
I love your honesty.
I mean, I love you, but come on, I need to see someone else already. But I think what really made us successful is because we all have a different goal in the restaurant. Meaning, we all do things that the other cannot do. So I cannot replace my mom. I cannot replace my dad. And my mom and my dad cannot replace me. They cannot do what I'm doing. They are incapable of doing what I'm doing. They cannot do the paperwork side and the accounting side and, you know, the customer service and all the email stuff. And my dad cannot cook, you know, and he cannot do my job. So we all need each other. So even if we fight, we still need each other to keep going. So that's how the business, I guess, worked out.
Fantastic.
Because we are just irreplaceable. If one piece of the puzzle is away, we don't really work. You know?
Right. Got it. No, I love that. That's great. So what have been the key lessons you say you've learned through, because you say your background, you were a model, you came to New York, you know, being a model, and now you're running this family business, French vegan restaurant. So what are some of the key things you've learned through running Delice and Sarrasin? And that, whether they're personal things or that you've learned about yourself or professional or both?
The key lessons, I think it made me realize that personal time is important. Because when you spend all day with people, surrounded of people, and when you have a restaurant in New York that's open all day, every day, I would say it's like a baby. It's like a baby that never grows. So you always need to watch him, you know, to see if the baby is not gonna touch this, it's not gonna fall, is, you know, constantly need to be on top of it. And it's the same with the restaurants, especially when it's in New York again. So I think I've learned to say stop and have my own personal time. It's so complicated to just let go when you're used to do it yourself. So I think that was one of the biggest lesson that I had.
It's an important
work
one.
Is great.
Yeah, especially when it's a vegan restaurant, because we're not just any old business. We're a business and we're making our money, but it's a mission-driven business. And I think sometimes, you know, people think, oh, well, I must keep, you know, doing this. And because we enjoy it, but you're absolutely right. And sometimes we can feel a little bit guilty about just like sitting down and hanging out or chilling out to something on Netflix. But you need that decompression sometimes, isn't it? So that you can be refreshed and energized to give back to the business.
Exactly. You're right. That's my big, I want to say, lesson that I got. I guess, you know, I never worked that many hours a day, so I never had to think about personal time, me time.
Yeah, it's an important one. Fantastic. Now, I know we're just on final question, and I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but just anything you want to say about the long-term vision, both for yourself and the restaurant brand?
So we definitely want to be there for a while. We have no plan on stopping. And as I said, we definitely we're working on another side of the French cuisine, which is the pastry side.
Oh,
the
lovely.
Pastry side and the cheese side. So, you know, we had the cuisine, but now I think it's time to also focus on croissant and millefeuille and those cheeses to make them as wow as the other thing. You know, that's what we want to do. So I think that's our vision now, to keep the quality stable, which is a challenge too. But now that we have all the elements to help us keep it stable, we want to focus on those things, on the other aspects of the French culinary side.
Oh, wonderful. That's so exciting, because as I remember when we used to go to the south of France, one of our favorite places was to go to this vegan pastry shop, a patisserie. And it was just, the gâteau. This was when we were vegetarian. So when we went vegan again, it was like, okay, there's nothing we can buy here. But when we were just vegetarian, it was like, amazing gâteaux, as you say, and croissant. And I love the fact that you're going to be veganizing all of those. It's wonderful. So Christophe, it's been wonderful speaking with you. I love what you and your family are doing. For anyone who's in New York or visiting New York, definitely go and visit Delice Sarrasin. You won't be disappointed. We'll put a link on the show notes page so people can find it. And hopefully next time I'm in New York, I'm not sure when that will be, hopefully next year, I will definitely be back to try another one of your dishes and hopefully meet your amazing mum as well. But it's been great speaking with you. You've been very generous with your time and expertise. I'm going to let you get back to work because I know it's evening there where you are. But thank you so much for being on the show, Christophe. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So that was Christophe Caron from Delice Sarrasin. You can find out more at delicesarrasin.com. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts and going to episode 127. Now for some vegan business news highlights. The leather industry in Australia has hit an all-time low as more consumers are embracing synthetic alternatives, reports the ABC. Australia mostly exports animal skins to tanneries in other countries where the final processing is carried out. According to Dennis King, Executive Officer of the Australian Hide, Skin and Leather Exporters Association, the popularity of synthetic clothing and shoes, especially in the sneaker market, has devastated the leather industry, which he said was in one of the worst depressions it's been in living memory. Meanwhile, over in the UK, British fashion retail giant New Look has launched 500 vegan shoes and bags, which are all certified by the Vegan Society with its trademark, reports Plant-Based News. The products are currently available to order online and will be rolled out into more than 900 stores from September. That's 2019 if you're listening in the future. New Look has also committed to reducing its reliance on animal-derived ingredients and achieve transparency in the supply chain. How heartening is it to hear that consumer choices are having an impact on leather, which is a cruel and unsustainable industry, and hopefully this will encourage people in that industry to move to kinder alternatives. I've been saying for a while now that we need governments to help transition animal-based businesses into animal-free ones, and this is a prime example. Los Angeles is hosting its first vegan bridal fair, reports Veg News. The Luxe & Kind Bridal Boutique pop-up will take place on the 8th of September, again that's 2019 if you're listening in the future, at the Bel Air Tree House, a plant-based hotel in LA. The fair will showcase a range of vegan wedding suppliers, vendors and professionals, including catering company Pink Salt Cuisine, vegan production company Amethyst Event Productions, and event planners Everlasting Vegan Events. Former wedding photographer Daniela De Grassi, founder of the Kind Bride vegan media brand, came up with the idea for the fair with Laura Frecon, founder of lifestyle brand Verte Luxe. I love seeing the growth of this kind of niche service and event. More people are keen to have vegan and eco-friendly weddings, and it makes sense for product makers, vendors and service providers to team up in this way and offer a one-stop shop for vegan wedding needs. Hopefully vegan bridal fairs will take off, and if you're listening to this and that's your area, then perhaps that's something that you could help to organise in your city, and I hope that they'll become popular in all cities, and ultimately, of course, ideally, we want all bridal fairs to become vegan. So this is certainly a good start. Fantastic. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a review and rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. Finally, I encourage you to head over to veganbusinessmedia.com, where you can find more free resources as well as details of how we can work together to help you grow your vegan business. I'm Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Vegan Business Talk. Bye for now.